Hi friends, thank you for taking out time to view some of the academic suggestions. I'm currently using an ice cream app to put across the video presentation as a conversation with all of you. And the presentation has been based on a template taken from Slides Carnival. Michael Morris, who's the director of Digital Pedagogy Lab, which is an organization focusing on digital learning, technology, and social justice at the University of Colorado. He, along with other colleagues, termed what beautifully describes the time today, which is Panicgogy. Panicgogy is basically an admixture of the feelings that each one of us as a teacher as well as learner is facing, which is full of panic and anxiety, and what should be the technology or the methodology or the pedagogy that each one of us should describe. And this has been referred to as Panicgogy by Morris. Panicgogy means understanding practicalities, which shall steer us through the difficult phase of teaching and learning. So things might be difficult, dear colleagues, but surely not impossible. On this positive note, let us begin our list of academic suggestions. Much before the pandemic, UGC had sharply steered its focus on integrating ICT in teaching and learning by 2022 as a part of its quality mandate. Given the current scenario and trying to balance out on online and offline sessions, blended learning is a policy to deliver teaching and learning. And this seems to be a significant move not just in our country, but also world over. It's an approach to systematically mix face-to-face teaching with online learning. So you will see that it's a combination of not just face-to-face teaching, virtual classrooms, webinars, links, simulations, assessments, and one-to-one coaching also. Now, online and blended learning provide opportunities for learners and teachers to work more independently. It also enables them to expand their agency, and it enables them to learn tools and strategies which, honestly speaking, at least I would not have explored otherwise. In blended learning, the online component can be delivered through both synchronous and asynchronous modes. It's very essential to understand that blended learning is a combination of the two. Now, let us try and understand what is asynchronous and what is synchronous teaching and learning. Synchronous teaching and learning happens collaboratively, that is, at the same time with a group of online learners and teachers. While asynchronous teaching and learning does not require a collaborative simulation of either time or space, it can take place at any time and does not require a specific number of audience, which is otherwise expected in synchronous learning in the form of maybe a classroom or for a Zoom meeting. In other words, synchronous sessions are those in which you expect students to join you at a certain time for a live session. While in the asynchronous sessions, we surely are not live, we are recorded, and we put across our sessions in a recorded mode for the learners to view at a time that would be convenient for them. In synchronized learning, therefore, two or more learners are connected simultaneously or in real time using the same platform or communication channel, while in the asynchronous learning, learners access the same material at different times and locations. So for instance, while using an e-learning website at different points. Please remember that both these modes of learning, that is synchronous as well as asynchronous, can be interactive as well as non-interactive. Here are some of the non-interactive synchronous forms. Here are some of the interactive synchronous forms. Here are some of the non-interactive asynchronous forms. And here are some of the interactive asynchronous form. You would observe that under the non-interactive asynchronous forms, we have an asterisk mark in front of voice threads, slide share, and YouTube. This asterisk mark is basically trying to put across something that once you add a comment section in them, that is, once you add a comment section in VoiceThread or SlideShare or YouTube, you would convert these asynchronous non-interactive sessions into asynchronous interactive sessions. Now, let us look at some of the common strategies which could be used in online and blended learning. This should not be treated as an exhaustive list. Kindly note, all enlisted activities are possible on mobile devices, but some may prove a little difficult to do so. So the asterisk mark here, if you can see, I'm taking the laser highlighter there. So the asterisk denotes activities that can be easily conducted using mobile devices. So some of the common activities, which are available for all of you, you could pick and choose from blogging and vlogging, collaborative writing, content production, discussion forums, e-websites, even gamification. You could also make them do a virtual gallery walking. Wiki building is another interesting option. Mind mapping, multimedia presentation, quizzes and surveys. There are a plenitude of options available for you as teachers and for students as learners. Now, what is the objective behind this particular blended learning? We should not assume, and I insist here, we should not assume that synchronous teaching is required or even desirable in order to support effective learning. World over, there has been a total shift in the timetable schedules. The schedules are no more synchronous because the goal is not to try to recreate a face-to-face classroom, which is actually impossible to do because classroom is just not about teaching, it's about mentorship. So now we are devoid of mentorship because we are addressing through thumbnails a collectivity of students who actually cannot have us face to face. So be aware of the shortcomings of synchronous learning and teaching. Given the digital divide, not everybody has continuous or permanent access to gadgets. Neither do they have access to perfect bandwidths. Some may even have family responsibilities, and that holds true both for teachers as well as for learners. Some might not have an independent space to either prepare the lectures or maybe to receive yours, as the case may be. In this uncertain time, it may be helpful if we adopt flexibility, which fits well with blended pedagogy, which is a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning. Till the time classes do not begin, be it be online or offline or both, let us mentally condition ourselves to be adaptive and fast thinking in order to ensure that learning continues in a healthy way. The idea here is really to help our students feel included in the process of rethinking education for a challenging time. Ask them for their own suggestions on the best way to keep in touch. Go beyond the official software. Make yourself reachable by as many means as possible while, of course, preserving the privacy. Facebook, Twitter, email, WhatsApp group, no matter what forum you decide for yourself, maybe could be a Moodle coursework also, but please ensure you keep yourself protected and also make sure that students have the opportunity to be connected to each other as well. Remember, our conscious efforts should be towards extending a sense of care to our students and to try to build a community that's going to be able to work together to get through the learning challenges. How is this possible might be an answer. And the answer is the question. How is it possible is the question. And the answer lies here in three limbs. The three keys to the lock are innovation, creativity, and resilience. Now, there are huge amounts of digital educational resources which have been shared with each one of you through your chairpersons, through your deans, through your offices, through your institution. To name a couple of them, Consortium for Educational Communications Undergraduate E-Courses, InflibNet's ePathshala, SWAYAM MOOCs, NPTEL courses, etc. In this particular slide, I'm also sharing a resource list by the World Bank's EdTech team, which enlists repositories, selection of online libraries, and compilation of educational resources, reading materials, lesson plans, and there are many more which are available. As I said, this surely is not an exhaustive list. Now, how do we conduct ourselves? There are certain netiquettes which are very essential when we are online. One such being clothes. Clothing is not optional, so dress up in a presentable manner. Be aware of the surroundings. Make sure that there is nothing in the background that may distract either you or your class. You may surely employ a virtual background to hide what you do not want to be seen, but ensure that the virtual background is not too loud, for even that may distract the students. Mute is your friend. Once the students log in to the virtual classroom, be sure to mute their microphones. This will help to eliminate background noises that could distract others. Fourthly, groom them to raise their hand and wait to be called upon. Once the teacher calls on the student, unmute them, and once they have finished speaking, mute their microphone again. Most important, as a teacher, please remember to be prompt. Arriving a couple of minutes early is great. Check your calendar the night before to make sure you know when your sessions are, especially in case of Google Meet. This becomes very convenient. Now, how do we deliver the content? Prepare, or if I may use the term, reformat the lecture content for online delivery. Put your slides in a consistent, desirable format, say for instance, PDF. To save time, consider pre-made templates like the one which I have used as Slides Carnival for Google Sheets and PowerPoint, or Behance for Keynote templates. Please remember, the font size and style should be uniform throughout the presentation. Be aware that online, perhaps even more than in the classroom, students will read first and listen second. Consider PowerPoint's animation feature or equivalent that allows you to show just a bullet or two at a time. Always remember to use audio visuals and do not extend beyond half an hour to 40 minutes. Mini lectures help online students to digest and retain information better. Use quotations to inspire the students. Use icons or illustrations to draw attention to significant topics. Complex ideas can be put across very well through images. If you want to overemphasize on something, use a big image like the one on the screen. It shall eliminate all distractions. Of course, the image should be yours. Use diagrams to explain ideas and tables to compare data. You can even insert graphs from Google or Excel sheets. You can add check-in or brief activities between parts of the lecture so that learners have an added opportunity to review new concepts. Intersperse the lecture clips with reflection questions for the students to consider. Try to make the learning experience inductive rather than entirely didactic. Ensure that your content is worthy of sharing. This is very, very essential. While you deliver a lecture in the class, a lot is communicated through your body language, your movement in the class, the eye contact. All this actually does miracles. But in the online mode, our limbs are visual display of our content our pitch, and the tone of our lecture. Next, be visible. Even when you are using share screen, it's a good practice to make sure that your face is visible on the side screen, like you can see currently, while the material are being displayed. Otherwise, engagement can decrease. Keep your students in front of you. Zoom's gallery view lets you see thumbnails of usually 25 students at a time, depending on your screen. You can also move screen to screen to see the next 25. There is a very interesting feature available online called the warm and the cold calls. Please remember, you can cold call a student just as you would in the traditional classroom, instead of waiting for her or him to raise their hand. For warm calls, you can message them privately in the chat before you call on them. While delivering, remind yourself that you are speaking to the students and not the camera. So what you need to do, you need to insert yourself, maybe through a personal story, through humor, or through an editorial commentary into the lecture. Note, pre-recording and live need not be substitutes, as I have constantly been pushing. They can serve as powerful complements too. Flipping your course was put across to us by Professor Pandey. Use it. Just to refresh, the term flipped classroom describes the case when instead of using an in-class format, instructors make their pre-recorded lectures available for students to view online, then use in-classroom time for discussion. For those who love the boards, if you usually do board work as a part of class section, which I'm sure most of us do, you have a number of options. Note that if you are accustomed to multiple simultaneous boards, you may need to adapt to showing a single screen's worth at a time. And for the option of board work, I would suggest you go through Boardwalk from the Boardwalk Center for further detailing. Lastly, summary slides work as they do in the physical classroom. In addition, though, you might invite students' reflections on the case too through chat. Closing the case can be a useful addition in an online setting vis-a-vis the physical classroom. The collective reflections of the class can provide a powerful summary to the discussion, so consider archiving these reflections for the class. I would like to conclude by putting across PIE, which is how teaching is defined, a three-phased activity involving planning as phase 1, implementation as phase 2, and evaluation as phase 3. Phase 1, which is planning, tends to be usually iterative. For this particular area, in this particular area, we tend to re-examine to accommodate changes. Hold a discussion with your colleagues and work out on learning outcomes. Though the syllabus is given, but please remember that the curriculum is yet to be drafted, and it is you along with your colleagues who's going to draft the curriculum. Work on the content. Balance it according to the academic calendar. Devise appropriate outcomes along with your colleagues and work out the assessments. Planning is that phase where we shall get an opportunity to meet each other, at least online. Phase 2, which is the implementation phase, focuses on building skills through transmission of information and knowledge. Do not forget Bloom's PCA, that is, psychomotor, cognitive, and affective involvement of our content. And finally, the third phase, which is the evaluation phase. We just not need to evaluate the learners exclusively through formative and summative assessments. Always remember, we need to evaluate our own selves also. Take teaching as a delight, keep on experimenting, and believe me, you would rejoice this dynamic and academically healthy perusal of blended teaching and learning as I'm doing it right now with each one of you. So please stay safe, stay healthy, and I actually miss seeing each one of you. God bless you. And with this, I end the show, revert back to my ice cream app, and tell it to stop it. Goodbye.